Hello, my name is Jones, and today I'm going to entertain you with the legal, ethical, and the cultural aspect of pharmacology. Okay, so we are going to look at it as a unit 2 of our lessons in pharmacology. So, in the previous topic, we learned about the principles of pharmacology, and we also looked at the terminologies that are used in pharmacology, among other things. The general objective of this lesson is that at the end of the course, you should be able to acquire the knowledge and understanding of the legal, ethical, and the cultural aspect of pharmacology. The specific objective is that at the end of the course, you should be able to explain the Pharmacy and the Poisons Act regulation, explain the National Drug Policy, explain the Therapeutic Substance Act, explain the Nurses and the Midwives Act, which now that one has been repealed and we have the 2019 Nurses and Midwives Act. Then also explain the Controlled Drug Act. Other objective is for you to explain the National Drug Formulary, describe the pharmacy regulatory authority, discuss the legal and ethical issues and implications to nursing, discuss cultural aspects in pharmacology, and discuss drug dependence and addiction. Drugs are substances which are not to be given anyhow by anyone. They should be prescribed and administered by a qualified personnel to abuse as such. You are expected to follow the laid down regulation of the storage and the sale of drugs when you qualify as a medical practitioner or as a nurse. The Act provides for the control of the profession of pharmacy and the trade in drugs and poisons. It also stipulates that only licensed personnel are authorized to store and sell such drugs or poisons. If you violate this act, you will be regarded as a thief of drugs and you can be deregistered and sometimes convicted. National Drug Policy. These are merely guidelines that govern the management and regulation of drugs in our geographical location. They were formulated between December 1995 and October 1996. The vision of this policy states the government is committed to the provision of equity of access to all people within our geographical location to good quality, safe, and efficacy of drugs or medicines which are affordable and rationally used as closer to the family as possible. The aim of the policy includes a drug registration and regulation to ensure that all drugs within our geographical location conform to the agreed standard of quality, efficacy, and safety. The policy ensures that there is quality assurance and the government has finances to procure, store, and distribute the drugs to its citizens. In this vein, you must ensure that the health institution you work for has all the essential drugs by ordering them in time. Therapeutic Substance Act. It is an act to control the importation, exploitation, possession, sale, distribution, and use of certain therapeutic substances, which you must adhere to as you practice. Nurses and Midwives Act of 31 of 1997. Okay, of which we have the new act that is 2019. But otherwise, this act It's an act of nurses and midwives which was enacted by Parliament in 1997 to regulate the training of nurses and midwives as well as their professional practice. It provides for nurses and midwives to prescribe and dispense drugs. Okay, so it provides guidance on which nursing group among the nursing professions should handle particular drugs. As such, you as a registered nurse, you are authorized to handle controlled drugs and key and essential drugs are not used at all times. So in nursing, there are different specialties. So according to specialty, someone may have an added advantage on certain drugs that they can prescribe and handle. Okay, so now Controlled Drug Act Chapter 549 of the Rules of Zambia. Drug stores dealing in controlled drugs are licensed under this provision. The misuse regulation of 1985 came into force on April 1st, 1986, replacing the 1973 regulation. It is law in Zambia or in our geographical country of location to control drugs which can cause addiction, as well as the sale and use of such drugs. The controlled drugs are listed in 5 schedules or schedules on regulation, which are arranged so that the numbers are in decreasing order to the severity of control. We have Schedule 1. The first schedule contains or consists of drugs such as cannabis, lizavit, and others which are not used as medicines. Their supply is prohibited except in accordance with Ministry of Home Affairs. So Schedule 1 have no medicinal property. They are prohibited except in accordance with Home Affairs. Examples of drugs under Schedule 1 is cannabis and lizavit. Schedule 2. The schedule consists of drugs such as heroin, morphine, pethidine, cocaine, and opium. These are subject to strict requirements on safe custody, prescription, and writing an accurate record of keeping. In hospital, morphine is used, pethidine is used as opioid drugs. So, Schedule 2, we find mostly opioid drugs. So these opioid drugs, they fall under Schedule 2. And 2 is all opioid drugs. Schedule 3. This schedule includes drugs such as phenobarbital, franol, meprobate, and a number of other drugs, which are not to be misused, though not so harmful as those in Schedule 3. Mostly for Schedule 3, we are looking at drugs that can be given in a patient with a mental illness. The example given is phenobarbital. Schedule 4. Control of these drugs is very minimal, and most of these drugs involved are benzodiazepines, such as diazepam or Valium and lorazepam. So, Schedule 4 is for benzodiazepines. Okay? Schedule 5. Schedule 5. This schedule consists of preparation of certain controlled drugs such as codeine and focodeine, procaine, and morphine preparations, which are exempted from full control. Most of these drugs are found as cocktails of analgesia and cough preparation. So in Schedule 5, we find codeine and focodeine, which are used in cough syrup. which are mild opioids. So mild opioids can be found under Schedule 5. Let us now talk about the National Drug Formulary. Many governments have produced national treatment guidelines that are intended to improve rational use of drugs and encourage good practice in HIV/AIDS related treatments. In addition, many national governmental organizations have developed their own treatment guidelines. Treatment guidelines provide information about different health problems and the necessary advice for treating them. They will tell you about the diagnosis and management of health problems as well as what alternative treatments can be used. They do not usually give complete information about each drug, but just what is necessary for use, such as the dose and the length of treatment. A prescribing manual, sometimes called a formulary, contains detailed information about each drug that is available for different health problems. This includes the dose, side effects, necessary precautions, and other special requirements for using the drug. It is usually arranged in the same way as an essential medicines list, with the drugs listed alphabetically under the types of disease that they can treat. These are key resources, treatment guidelines, and prescribing manuals alongside essential medicine lists. Drug lists for you and midwives can be used together to answer key questions about providing effective management of many conditions, including HIV-related treatment. It is therefore important that a nurse or the health practitioner must have a national drug formulary for effective drug prescription. Pharmacy Regulatory Authority. The Pharmacy Regulatory Authority is the regulatory agency responsible for administration of the provision related to pharmacies. The pharmacy-related provision of the Act deal with the following: register medicines, herbal medicines, and license allied substances, register pharmacies, and license pharmacy premises, both in the private and public sector, pharmacy businesses and pharmacy services providers, so proprietors, pharmacy companies, and pharmacy trusts, and also pharmacy depots. The Pharmacy Regulatory Authority also regulates and controls the manufacture, importing and exporting, distribution and sale of medicines, herbal medicines, and allied substances. It also regulates and controls the advertising and the promotion of medicines, herbal medicines, and allied substances. It saves and protects the public interest in all matters relating to the sale of medicines, herbal medicines, and allied substances. It regulates and monitors the conduct of clinical trials on human beings and animals. Legal and ethical implications. The patient is the center of all nursing activities. Therefore, the only circumstance of his or her situation must not change how you as a nurse must practice or how you view the patient. The ethical and legal issues you must address in your practice borders on decision you make and observing the rights of the patient. Ethical and legal concerns. The ethical decisions that you make as a nurse must at all times be about care delivery and patient advocacy in planning and providing safe patient care. The legal implications of nursing practice are tied to licensure and a public expectation that you practice at a high professional standard. The nurse's education License and nursing standard provide the framework by which nurses are expected to practice. When nurses' practice falls below acceptable standards of care and competence, this exposes the nurse to trial. The following ethical and legal principles below must be balanced in displaying an attitude of care and compassion while recognizing and maintaining safe practicing boundaries. Legal standards. They are guidelines which may be deemed right or wrong by laws. Nursing ethics. These are standards for professional behavior guide to identify our conduct in relation to patients, fellow nurses, healthcare team, our community, and our profession. Licensure. When you qualify, you are expected to have a current license indicating the scope of practice. When you qualify, you will be committed to fulfill legal responsibility accountable to meet ethical, moral obligation of your practice, and you have to accept assignment from your supervisor, know your limitation and function according to work for good of the patient, because you are the patient's advocate. Negligence. You are expected to work within the framework of the nursing process, failure to which you will be cited for negligence. Negligence or breach of duty is failure of an individual to provide care that a reasonable person would ordinarily use in similar circumstances. Therefore, any failure or omission to conduct your duty in nursing, the patient will be regarded to the patient will be regarded as negligence on your part and subject to disciplinary action. Malpractice. Malpractice refers to the behavior of a professional person's wrongful conduct, improper discharge of professional duties, or failure to meet the standards of acceptable care, which result in harm to another person. As such, you are not at any time in your professional career expected to conduct yourself in an improper or unethical conduct which can endanger the patient's life. Confidentiality. This principle relates to concept of privacy. Information obtained from an individual will not be disclosed to another without patient's consent. Confidentiality, therefore, is an element of respect for persons or patients' privacy. Therefore, as a nurse, you are expected to keep confidential what the patient, all information about the patient. Cultural aspects. You are expected to respect culture of patients who are under your care in order for you not to have problems with the community. However, you must explain to the patient the benefits of accessing treatment which may be culturally wrong for them in order for them to have an informed choice. The terms and drug dependency and drug addictions are often used interchangeably, but this practice leads to confusion among professionals regarding the diagnostic implication of these terms and also contributes to misunderstanding the underlying cause of substance abuse. You must know the difference, and it is as follows. Drug dependence means that a person needs a drug to function normally. In this case, the individual is dependent upon the drug for normal physiological functioning. Abstinence from the drug produces withdrawal reaction, which constitutes the only evidence for dependence. Drug dependence can involve disturbances in a general bodily, that is, somatic functions such as vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, and the resulting symptoms indicate a physical dependence syndrome. It is usually specific for a given class of drugs. Drug addiction, on the other hand, is the compulsive use of the substance despite its negative or dangerous effects. However, a person may have a physical dependence on a substance without having an addiction. For example, certain blood pressure medication do not cause addiction, but they can cause physical dependency. Other drugs such as cocaine cause addiction without leading to physical dependency. All right, so we have been looking at this unit 2, where we have looked at legal and ethical issues in pharmacology that are supposed to be considered. So I thank you very much for your concentration as we were learning this unit. Okay, so you have to keep studying so that you can understand the expectations of your expectations of what we have discussed in this. We had objectives to satisfy, and I hope you have followed how we have achieved each and every objective of this lesson as we were discussing. So thank you very much.